AITA, drama, secrets, confessions. Welcome to Trove Reddit.
I'm Logan Pierce. As a kid, I thought my life was a real-life fairy tale. My family was perfect, so perfect it could be on a magazine cover. But can you believe it? It was all a mask. A terrifying one. Behind those laughter-filled dinners hid a secret no one would ever speak of. An old, dusty box in the basement. A faded photo no one dared mention. And my brother's gaze, cold enough to make me choke. People say some truths can destroy an entire family. I laughed at that. Until the day I opened the door to hell itself. Hit subscribe so you won't miss the next shocking chapter of this story. I remember that fateful day clearly. A rainy, drizzling afternoon, I was digging through the old basement of our house. The musty smell rose up, filling every dark corner. Among the dusty boxes, there was a small wooden box with a loose lock. Curious, I opened it. Inside were faded family photos. My dad smiling brightly, my mom gentle and warm, my brother standing beside them. But then my eyes froze on one detail that made my blood run cold. In several of the photos, there was a strange child. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, standing right next to my parents, even dressed in matching clothes with me. Her face was both familiar and alien. But why had I never seen this girl before? I flipped through every photo. She was everywhere: birthdays, Christmas celebrations, even the family photo in front of our house. Yet in my memory, there had never been a sister or younger sibling like her. Can you believe it? A whole person could vanish from everyone's memory. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might burst from my chest. The more I looked at her, the more I shivered. Her smile wasn't joyful, it was a warning, a cryptic message sent straight to me. Was I imagining this? Or had someone deliberately erased her from my life? The questions drilled into my mind: why does no one mention her? Who is she in my family? And why have I never heard her name before? A strange, unsettling feeling washed over me. It was as if the house itself was hiding a truth I was never meant to discover. Should I keep digging? Or stop before everything spirals completely out of control? What would you do if one day you discovered a stranger's face in your family photos, a face you had never remembered at all? I didn't stop at the photos. My heart urged me to find more clues, as if an invisible hand was pulling me deeper into a nightmare. I rummaged through the wooden box once more, and this time, I discovered a stack of old papers shoved to the bottom. Dust covered everything, the pages yellowed with age, but I could still make out a few lines of writing. It was a birth certificate. It clearly listed my parents' names. But the child's name was almost completely torn away. Only a few scribbled marks remained, as if someone had deliberately tried to erase every trace. I shivered. If this wasn't my birth certificate, then whose was it? I pieced the paper together, trying to imagine the hidden name. In that moment, a strange name echoed in my head, as if someone were whispering it into my ear. I couldn't remember it clearly, but one thing was certain: it wasn't unfamiliar. It was familiar enough to make me choke. Questions started racing through my mind. If there really was another child in the family, why would my parents hide it? Were they protecting me? Or protecting themselves? And more importantly, why tear the paper apart? My whole body went cold. It was as if someone was watching my every move, afraid I would uncover the truth. In the dark basement, the light suddenly flickered. I swear I heard footsteps echoing from the stairs. Was I being haunted? Or was someone really trying to stop me from digging into the past? I didn't know whether to trust my senses or the growing madness in my head. But one thing was clear: the more hidden the clues, the scarier the truth would be, far worse than anything I could imagine. If you were me, would you dare to keep digging? Or stop before touching a deadly truth? Don't forget to subscribe to follow the next chapter, because what I discovered next was 100 times more horrifying. I couldn't stay silent any longer. That very night, I brought the photos and the torn birth certificate into the living room and placed them right in front of my parents. I wanted an explanation. But their reaction wasn't what I expected. My mother went pale, her hands shaking so badly she knocked over a glass of water. My father erupted in fury, his voice booming like thunder: "Never bring this up again. You don't understand what you're doing." My brother leaned back in his chair, smiling mysteriously, as if he had known this moment would come. I shouted, "Who is the girl in the photos? Whose birth certificate is this?" My mother cried, but my father yelled that I was imagining things, that it was just someone's joke. But I wasn't crazy. Something was very wrong. The more I questioned, the stranger their denials became. My father stood up, snatched the photos from my hands, and tore each one apart. My mother begged, "Please, don't dig up the past. It will destroy all of us." Destroy? What could be so horrifying that the entire family had to live a lie for so many years? Finally, my brother spoke, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "If you're smart, you'll bury this back in the basement. If not, you will regret ever bringing it up." That warning felt like a cold blade pressed to my throat. Questions spun endlessly in my mind. Why were my parents so terrified? Why did my brother want me to stop? And if there really was nothing, why react so violently? I looked around the familiar house, but in that moment, it felt like a strange place, full of secrets. A perfect family? Or just a flawless act hiding the most horrifying truth? Can you believe your own parents could hide a dark secret for decades? I couldn't sleep that night. The house was silent, but in my head, it felt like 1,000 screams were echoing. I had to know the truth. And the only people who could give me answers outside my family were those who had lived around here. The next morning, I went to see an elderly neighbor who had watched me grow up. She sat on a creaky wooden chair, her cloudy eyes staring at me for a long moment before letting out a heavy sigh. Then she said something that froze me in place. "You used to have a sister." I went stiff. All the photos, the torn papers, the strange looks from my parents, suddenly fit together into a hazy, terrifying picture. I asked, trembling, "Who was she? Where is she now? Why didn't anyone in the family ever tell me?" But instead of answering, the neighbor looked around nervously, as if someone was eavesdropping. She grabbed my hand tightly, her voice quivering. "Don't ask any more. That is very dangerous. The more you know, the more you risk losing everything." Dangerous? A child who once existed in my family. How could that become a deadly secret? I had never seen anyone so afraid. She even sent me home, locked the gate, and refused to meet me again. On the way back, my heart pounded and my mind raced. If what the neighbor said was true, my parents had been lying to me for years. But why? What was so horrifying that the whole neighborhood stayed silent? I stepped into the house and looked directly at my brother. He just smirked, a smile colder than winter. Then he spoke slowly. "I told you, there are things you shouldn't know. The price isn't just losing trust." In that moment, I shivered. My family wasn't just hiding a secret. They were hiding a ghost, a nightmare that, if I touched it, could swallow my entire life. What would you do? If you discovered you once had a sister erased from your family's history, would you keep searching? Or pretend you never knew she existed? Don't forget to subscribe to follow the next chapter, because what I'm about to reveal might keep you awake all night. I began to realize that if I wanted the truth, I couldn't rely on my parents or the neighbors anymore. They were all hiding something. So where else could hold a clearer record of the truth than the hospital? I secretly dug through my family's old documents, tracing the hospital where I was born. It was an old building, peeling walls, long hallways lit by flickering yellow lights. I made my way to the archives, where thousands of dusty medical records were stored. The night shift staff barely noticed me. I took the opportunity to search for my parents' names among the files. When I touched a brown folder, my heart pounded. The first page was clear, same birthday as me, same parents' names. But this wasn't me. It was a little girl. I clenched my teeth and read on. The file stated the child had died in an accident just a few years after birth. But what chilled me wasn't the word died, it was the bright red stamp across the file, secret, not to be disclosed. Why would a child's death need to be a secret? And why was this file locked away as if someone wanted to bury it forever? I turned a few more pages. There was an unusual medical report, injuries that didn't match the stated cause of the accident. It looked like human-inflicted wounds. I shivered, my hands shaking, unable to believe what was unfolding before me. Questions raced through my mind. Had the girl really died? Or was she just erased from the records to disappear from the world? If she was alive, where could she be now? And who had orchestrated this cruel deception? I left the hospital in a daze. But I knew this was only the first door. Behind it, there was certainly a much darker truth waiting for me. Can you imagine parents erasing a child from history, and the whole world pretending she never existed? I was used to feeling betrayed. But I never expected that the whole world around me was playing along in this twisted game. After leaving the hospital, I decided to search for records at my old school. If there really had been another child in the family, she had to have left a trace somewhere. I asked my old teachers, dug through the student lists. But strangely, no one remembered that name. Some even snapped, "Don't bring it up again. Just forget it." I walked down the street where I had spent my childhood, asking neighbors one by one. Everyone avoided me, their eyes drifting away, as if I had just touched a deadly secret. The more I asked, the more I was met with terrifying silence. I began to understand, not just my family, but the entire community was complicit. That night, as I passed the abandoned playground at the end of the street, I heard whispers. A group of people huddled in the shadows, speaking of the buried child and the curse on my family. I held my breath, heart pounding, trying to catch every word. Then a metal door slammed shut behind me with a loud bang, making me jump. When I turned around, the group was gone, leaving only a chilling emptiness. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just being deceived by my family. The entire community had turned its back on me. A secret so massive that everyone was forced to pretend they didn't know. But the more they hid it, the more the truth reeked of death, haunting my life. Questions swirled in my mind. If a whole society is willing to sacrifice a child to keep quiet, what else are they hiding? And am I the next target? What would you do? If one day you discovered that not just your family, but your neighbors, your entire community, were complicit in erasing the truth, would you still dare to live in your own home? Don't forget to subscribe to follow the next chapter, because what I'm about to discover is even more terrifying than everything that's happened so far. I knew that if I wanted to reach the ultimate truth, I had to find the girl in that photo. There was no doubt anymore, this lost sister could still be alive. And if someone had been holding her all these years, I had to find that place. After days of tracking leads, I discovered a strange address in the old hospital records. It wasn't an official hospital, but a secluded facility on the outskirts of town, deep in the forest. People called it a care camp. But the name alone made me shiver. I went there on a gray, rainy afternoon. The rusted iron gate, the cold building behind it, windows sealed tight like a prison. No one in sight, only the wind whistling through the cracks. I pretended to be a relative visiting a patient and slipped inside. In the dark hallway, I heard whispers. A hoarse female voice repeating over and over, "They lied. They lied." My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. I followed the voice, and before me was a small room with a rotting wooden door. When I opened it, I froze. Sitting on a rusty iron bed was a girl with eyes so deep, a face so strangely familiar, it was like looking into a mirror. She looked at me, lips trembling. "You're here." I was speechless. She reached out and grabbed my hand, her eyes full of desperation. "You have to hear me. They lied to everyone. I never died. And the person who locked me up here, it wasn't a stranger." Her sentence hung unfinished, but it was enough to collapse my entire world. I shivered, unsure whether to believe her or run. The truth I had waited for all this time had finally appeared, but it was far more terrifying than any nightmare. What would you do if one day you faced your dead sister, and she told you that your family had staged a lie for decades? I froze when I heard my sister's words. The cramped room seemed to spin, suffocating me. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. The person locked up here all these years wasn't some mad stranger. It was my own sister. She squeezed my hand, eyes wide with fear. Her voice trembled. "It wasn't our parents, and it wasn't the neighbors. It was your brother. He's the one who made me disappear." I was stunned. All my memories of the perfect, model brother shattered like glass. But she wasn't done. The next words made my blood run cold. "He wanted you to forget. Wanted you to think I never existed. But the truth. You are the reason all of this happened." I stepped back, my mind spinning. Me? Why me? What the hell is going on? She looked at me, eyes red and wet. "Don't you remember? Back then, you caused the tragedy. Your brother only tried to cover it up, and our parents had no choice but to sacrifice me. You are the final piece of this horrific game." My heart raced, sweat pouring down my body. Fuzzy memories flickered in my mind, screams, blood, the shadow of a falling child. I trembled, trying to deny it, but deep down, I knew. There was some truth in her words. Questions tore through my mind. Am I innocent? Or the monster who destroyed my entire family? Did my brother really try to protect me? Or manipulate my memory to turn me into an obedient puppet? And if everything she said is true, did my parents sacrifice my sister just to hide my guilt? I wanted to scream, to tear everything apart, but my throat caught. The room went dark, and for the first time in my life, I feared myself. What would you do if one day you realized the real monster in the story wasn't someone else, but you? Don't forget to subscribe to follow the next chapter, because the finale will send shivers straight to your bones. The room was so silent I could hear my own heartbeat. My sister sat across from me, eyes empty, while I trembled like someone waking from a long nightmare. But this wasn't a dream. This was reality. Or at least the reality they wanted me to believe. My brother stepped in, the door closing behind him with a sound like handcuffs snapping. He stared at me without blinking, a half-smile curling on his lips. Now you remember, don't you? You're the cause. You're the knife that shattered this family. I wanted to scream, not me. It can't be me. But the shattered memories kept flooding back. Blood spreading, screams echoing, and my small hands from years ago. Trembling, holding something I shouldn't have. I bolted, running like a madman, but it felt like the house had no exit. Every door led back to the same place. The first room. Where it all began. On the table, the old photo waited for me, now clearer than ever. The person in the picture wasn't my sister. Not my brother. It was me. Eyes bloodshot, mouth twisted into a grim smile, the photo felt like a death sentence. I collapsed, unsure if I was living in a memory, a lie, or a nightmare I had created myself. One question kept repeating in my mind: if I am the monster, is there any way to escape myself? Or am I doomed to live forever in the shadow of my own guilt? All the secrets I once doubted now lay bare. My sister had never died. She had been locked away in a secret room for nearly 20 years, all to hide a truth my parents and brother feared to reveal. The cause wasn't an accident, it was a disaster I had unknowingly caused as a child. One fateful day, my harmless prank turned into a tragedy. My sister was injured, and my parents didn't dare confess, afraid the family would crumble. My brother, the one I trusted completely, hid everything, crafting a perfect lie to make me believe I was innocent. And to cover up the horrifying truth. Every photo, every torn paper, every strange look. All pieces of the deception. They sacrificed my sister's happiness to keep the secret, to make sure I never knew I was the cause of the tragedy. I knelt, tears streaming. The truth was revealed. But the pain remained intact. I was both the victim and the perpetrator in my own family's story. Can you imagine? Sometimes the harshest truth doesn't come from the monsters outside, but from yourself, from innocent decisions long ago. From this day forward, I will live with this haunting forever. But at least now, I know the truth. No more darkness hiding it, no more lies, just me, my sister, and the horrifying memory of a family secret that spanned 2 decades. If you've followed this far, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chilling stories, where the truth will always challenge what you thought was safe.